Outstanding, the ultimate accolade for teachers. We challenge primary teacher Chloe Mercado to go from good to outstanding. A top inspector will observe one lesson. 2 experts will fine-tune her practice and beef up her presentation. She then gets 2 weeks to take on the advice before the inspector comes back for the final verdict.
It's just quite stressful, but I'm trying not to sort of dwell on it too much because I think I could go a bit crazy if I thought about it.
Belmont Primary is a 2-form entry school in West London. Chloe Mercado has been teaching there for 2 years.
I really enjoy teaching. I really enjoy being with the children. It's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun.
The school rates her teaching as good.
I'm really delighted with her. She's very quickly understands what being a class teacher is all about. I think she's got a great sense of humour, and that communicates with enthusiasm.
Chloe is teaching a Year 2 class and will focus the Good to Outstanding challenge on her science lessons.
Turn around, face me. Elysia, Lucy D, Jamie.
My class are just a really lovely bunch of children. They're really enthusiastic about all our topics. They're an absolute pleasure to teach.
She helps us say what we have to do, and if we don't know how to spell something, she would help us spell it, stuff like that.
It feels really good to be one of her pupils because she's such a great teacher.
She tells you things in a way that it would be the easiest way possible for us to know.
I think for me, the key thing that I really want to develop is just being completely confident and happy to take things wherever they go in a lesson, rather than feeling I've got to stick to the plan rigidly.
Will you please make sure your books are closed and in a neat pile?
It's the morning of her observation.
Trying to get my head around everything, basically. Just sort of trying to stay calm so I can remember everything. But no, nervous, definitely nervous.
With hundreds of observations under her belt, School Inspector Claire Gillies leads inspection teams up and down the country. She certainly knows an outstanding lesson when she sees one.
I'm at Belmont Primary School to see Chloe Mercado teach Year 2 science.
Chloe has a 65-minute lesson to impress our inspector.
Right, I just want you to watch the board and see if you can work out what we're going to be learning about today.
Medicine.
Medicines, fantastic. You're absolutely right. Hands up who thought it was going to be medicines. Brilliant.
When you talk to young people, they'll practically always highlight the teacher's enthusiasm is key to them enjoying and feeling they're really learning well in a lesson.
Does anybody recognise any of the medicines on here? Saichi, what do we call these?
Vitamins.
They could be vitamins, and what do vitamins do?
Help you.
Yeah, the vitamins help us, don't they? They help us, they stop us from getting ill. Vitamins. What do we call this? An injection. A lot of the time we have an injection and it puts something into our bodies which stops us from getting some diseases. And it's actually called a vaccination.
The best part I like of my teacher is the way she feels and the way she is and the personality she has.
What you're going to be doing today is you're going to be thinking really carefully about that time when you were really, really ill. So the first thing we're going to think about is, why did you have to have medicine that time? I want you to just turn to the person sitting next to you.
And you had some cough medicine, did it make you feel better?
Yeah.
Did it stop you coughing?
Hey, it was quite yummy.
It was yummy, was it? Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
it's like maple syrup.
Okay. Imogen.
Once I had an earache and I took some
How
medicine.
were you feeling when you had the earache?
Painful.
It was very painful, was it?
I would like to have lots more experiments because they're nice and fun.
To take an inhaler
but I didn't like it.
And then what happens?
And then I felt better.
And then you felt better. So medicines sometimes take a long time to work, sometimes they work very quickly. So you should have lots and lots of things to say. So first of all, you're thinking about why you were ill, how you were feeling. Then you were thinking about all the people, Tom, that helped you. And then on the back, how did you take your medicine? What type of medicine was it? And finally, how did it make you feel? Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to draw a picture to show you being ill. And then you can do some writing, you two, to go with it. Oh, you were dehydrated. Goodness me. Goodness me.
And then what does that mean, anti-inflammatory?
It's a medicine.
And what's it to do, do you know?
To stop things off getting too swollen.
Brilliant, absolutely, yes.
I learned that you can report things that happened to you already and put them in a kind of grid.
Bailey, why did you need to take medicine? What's in your first box? Why did you need to take medicine?
Tummy bug.
You had a tummy bug. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Bailey. We were talking about the type of medicine that you had. Luke.
I had hay fever and I took it by this thing that went like that.
Is that to help you breathe?
I had to breathe out and in.
You had to breathe out and in. Oh, excellent. That's very interesting. So that was...
I think would like her to make it a bit, like maybe a bit more scientific words. I wouldn't really mind that.
Pencils away.
So how did Chloe perform?
Chloe, thank you very much indeed for letting me join that science lesson. I'd like to start straight away by saying that I think some of your generic teaching skills are really good, and there's lots of lovely touches and techniques going on, listening and sharing. Wonderful. Yeah. So if you stand back from the lesson, how did you feel it went?
I think, you know, the learning intention was the role of medicines, and obviously it's vast. I think possibly, you know, there are things I kind of thought afterwards, I didn't sort of go into much detail about that, maybe I should have done.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, really. And I suppose if I look at the shape of the lesson in terms of actually what amount of content we got out of it, we were on the carpet for quite a long time.
We were.
Good half hour almost.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I totally support starting from their experiences, building on that. But if you stand back and look at the science content as to how much new science did they learn, I think with those super receptive, willing pupils, they could learn more.
Right.
The actual vocabulary, which was rich around the room, wasn't rich brought together.
Yeah.
I mean, anti-inflammatory, jolly difficult to spell. I had to think about, and cough and all those really ones. And possibly where we could have really gone a bit more to town was the really significant difference between preventative medicine and curing.
Okay.
Because the word vaccination skimmed past the horizon. Again, difficult one to spell, could have gone on the board.
Yeah.
It's always the whole skill of teaching science to young ones is the clarity they need, keeping it very simple for them, but equally not so simple that you might be sowing a seed of confusion in the future.
Yeah.
But they're a joy to teach,
Yes.
and I think they're ready to go further in subject content.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much again.
Thank you. I'm really, really pleased that generically she thinks my teaching is good. I'm slightly disappointed the actual kind of content of the lesson didn't go slightly better, but also a lot to learn from it, which is great, which is, what it's all about.
The inspector highlighted Chloe's need to sharpen up the science content in her lessons while building in challenges for the most able pupils. With the first observation now behind her, it's time to bring on the experts. To boost Chloe's progress, help comes from voice and communications coach Ulrika Schulte-Bauklo and primary science consultant John Stringer. They start by watching Chloe's lesson.
Medicines, fantastic, you're absolutely right.
I generally think she really tries to make things cheerful, colourful.
Yeah, but vitamins help us, don't they?
She's obviously enthusiastic about the subject, which is not an easy one to teach, but she hasn't actually done the story preparations necessary to have had a clearer structure.
How do we know what order these boxes go in?
I notice she really suffers with her voice and try to help her, particularly with her gestures. I would like her more to reach into the room and to make herself more felt to all of them.
What we're going to do this afternoon is have a look at the lesson that you taught and look at ways in which we can make a good lesson into one that's outstanding. And I think one of our concerns is that it was a bit on the sort of science light side.
Yes, to an extent, I was perhaps relying on the knowledge that I have.
A lot of science is not common sense.
Yeah.
And many of us grow up with a common sense understanding of science, which
Yeah.
gets us by.
Yeah.
But actually, when you apply it, particularly to what the children are doing in the classroom, it doesn't necessarily fit. So one of the things that I think is important is to ensure that you have got the factual knowledge at your fingertips.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I felt that would have made a real difference was to have got your facts in order and to told the story.
Okay.
The first thing is, of course, to look at the range of drugs and what they're likely to do. And you touched on all of these. The next thing is to say that the body is a barrier to this.
Right.
That in order to get the drugs into us, we've got to find ways of crossing that barrier,
Okay.
and either by taking things orally or putting patches or creams on ourselves. You did all of this,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
not quite
yeah.
locked together. Now, had you had those in place, it would have helped you to discard the bits that you didn't need, where children were either repeating or presenting you with something that had already been given
Yeah.
to you. And that
Right.
might have led, I think, into something
Yeah.
a bit better structured and a bit clearer.
Okay.
Some people would say that your job with those children was a doddle, but you actually have a very hard job to do too, because you're facing children who are already extremely knowledgeable, who you have to extend and stretch and push, which
Yeah.
is very hard work.
Extending those children that need to sort of go beyond year 2, really, I suppose.
The
in a
danger is
way.
to begin to cover Key Stage 2 curriculum.
Yes,
And there might be a
so-
temptation to assume it's going to work, but somebody's
Yeah.
thought that conceptually that's
Yeah.
best suited to
Yeah.
older children. But, for example, if we looked at our medicine bottles and you asked them to design something that would actually do the same job as this commercial one, you could actually extend them into something that gets their thinking going,
Yeah.
but more broadening than going up the curriculum. There's also veterinary science at this level, which sounds silly, but
Yeah.
they love animals, of course.
Yeah.
Children adore animals. I would look at those sorts of areas,
Okay.
broadening, extending, building on, because QCA is only a skeleton,
Yeah.
building on that to the exciting things that they could do.
Yeah.
So great. So if you just freeze this for a moment, how does it actually feel?
Sort of not slightly odd, a bit pointless.
You have contradictory things in you. On the one hand, you know you have to communicate. On the other hand, you're holding back. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that your activities all up there is that your voice has a lot to do here because there's not enough support from down here. So we are just losing now your shoulder area up because all these muscles have an effect to your voice.
Ulrika works on Chloe's voice to make it smoother and less strained.
Yeah, so what I like you now is you do a little bit of Tarzan in the front. So
Okay.
very gently, exactly, you are starting going around there. And what I like you now is, first of all, you do a sigh like a, ah. And off you go, don't worry if it comes croaky out. And, ah. Brilliant, do it once more. And, ah. And can you do meow?
Meow.
Can you feel your voice is pretty croaky up there? So what I like us now is to coordinate what you say it slowly, with up and down with your voice, not
Okay.
pens down, pens down.
Pencils down.
Yeah. Yeah, there comes the croaky bit, once more. Pencils down, just
Pencils down.
Yeah, here we go. Fantastic. Because what you do also with a higher sound, you will stimulate their brain.
Okay.
Yeah? So now really try, everybody, make it really, really big. And
Okay. Everybody, pencils down.
breathe.
Turn around
Breathe.
and face me.
Okay, fantastic. Just breathe in between. Yeah.
Okay.
Chunk, gap, chunk. These are 3 instructions. Once more, a bit more gap.
Everybody, pencils down.
turn around and face me.
Yeah, good. Much better. Great.
The thing that surprised me about what Ulrika said is that actually you don't have to have this tired voice at the end of the week or at the end of the day, which is great news because she's actually shown me how to use it properly.
So, with Chloe's final observation just weeks away, it's back to the classroom to put all that advice into action and raise her game.
You will see that our new science topic this term is called forces and movement. I'm using forces. What's happening, Bailey? In terms of what I'm working on, the structure of the lesson, I was really thinking about. At the end of the day, I basically wanted them to know that pushes and pulls are forces. I'm going to try again. And that there are different actions you can use to create a push or a pull force. You're both standing up. Marco, you're pulling. I can plan the structure of the lesson. When it comes to my gestures and my voice, it's something I need to think about at the time. Every chair should be turned around and it should be facing me. I think it's certainly still work in progress, so I'm just still working on everything, really.
Chloe and Deputy Head Verity Coates reflect on last week's observation.
You're taking all the feedback now, but
Yeah.
you're not writing any other sort of suggestions. You've got questions, but not keywords.
Yeah. No, I should have been writing a lot of that down, a lot of the vocabulary, so we could have come back to it and looked at it,
And I think that's another way, actually, where you move them on from what they already know, because then they can use a word that they might not have known what it meant. They might have known what it was.
Yeah.
And particularly if you're more able, I think, that they actually start to use some of the technical vocabulary. They're understanding it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Rather than just reporting it.
I watched the first observation lesson. It's so weird.
It's like watching somebody else. That's what's so strange about it.
You watch it and think, right, things that you don't think you do, or
I was literally, and literally at one point I was like this. Things that Ulrika did with me, I am much more aware of it all the time. I suddenly think I'm doing it now. I'm doing it all the time. What was that? A push force?
With 1 week to go before her final observation, Chloe is upping the science content while keeping in mind the ability range in her class.
Which one do you have to use more force for? Pushing up or pushing down? So, your learning intention today is to describe the forces used when objects are moved. I had a lot of vocabulary up today. I tried to use it and introduce the words whilst I was teaching. I was expecting some of them to be writing sentences where they're talking about a powerful or gentle force, which direction it's gone in, and why. Where some of them would be drawing a picture of themselves. The work they were producing is where the differentiation came into it, I think. Naveen, Aditya. Right. I want my truck to move. But I don't want any of us to actually push it or pull it ourselves. Ellie.
You could blow it.
Ooh, could we blow it? I'll tell you what, we can't blow it ourselves.
On the hill, and then it'll sort of like go down.
He's cracked it. Go. Oh, hi, John, it's Chloe. How are you?
With Judgment Day looming, Chloe gets some last-minute advice from John Stringer.
Did you use a ramp as well?
I did. At the end, we all sat round again, and I got a ramp and a truck, and I asked how we could make it go down.
What's happening next?
Well, then next is investigating how to make it go further. So changing the angles.
Right, because once you use the ramp, could lead you into your very first graph. But for this age of children, for your youngsters, they're best, I think, to look at a bar chart. Some of them could literally make the table up with a ruler.
Draw the actual table.
Yeah, some of them might need the table prepared for them with maybe the headings on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thanks, John. Bye. Dancers, you need bare feet. Okay? Right. Quite tired today. There's an awful lot going on generally. And obviously we've had the school show now. Quite stressful putting it all on. Making sure it's all okay. I don't want more than 4, I'm not going to be able to fit that in. I'm just checking that everything I think is going to happen does actually happen. It's got the potential to be a really good lesson, and and I've hopefully brought everything that I've learned and talked to people about into it, and hopefully it will come together.
The day of Chloe's final observation has arrived, and Claire Gillies is back. With all the expert advice and hard practice behind her, will Chloe move from good to outstanding?
Forces of movement. Now, here's the car, here's the ramp. I was wondering, how could we change the distance that the car travels? Have a little think about it quickly.
It's like bumpy on those well, it won't be that.
Just turn around, face me. Who would like to give me something that they thought of that could make the car go in a different distance, go further or shorter? Imogen.
You could put it higher.
What could you put higher?
The ramp.
Oh, excellent. What do you think is going to happen? Who would like to tell me their prediction? Lucy.
When you do the highest one, then the car will go down faster than the other heights, and it will go further.
Right. Do you want to let it go, Bailey? Whoa. Wow. It is about 25 centimetres. So, middle ramp. Ooh.
It was like we were doing an experiment, and experiments are very fun.
Right, final one. Are we ready?
Yes.
Everyone ready?
Yes.
Right. Release the car. Ooh.
77.
It's about 75 centimetres. Hands up. Who made a correct prediction? Oh, wow.
It was my favourite part because I guessed and I got it right.
So, this block graph shows the effect of the height of a ramp on the distance a car travels. So what we need to do to make it a little bit easier with our results, we're just going to round them up to the nearest 10 centimetres. But I'm going to colour up to there to show that on the low ramp, the car travelled 30 centimetres. Get a colour, colour it in. What happened when the ramp was low? How could you explain it? What could you say?
It went lower.
Did it go lower? It was the distance, wasn't it? Was it a long distance or a short distance?
Short.
Right.
Spaceship, there's no gravity.
So I better be very careful if I ever find myself in a spaceship.
And the shorter distance on the low ramp and the further distance on the high ramp. Do you know why that happened?
Pull force.
It's a pull force. Excellent. And what happened to that pull force when the ramp went higher? It got
Bigger.
It was a greater force, wasn't it, that was pulling it more. Who thinks they can tell us what happened? Alex.
When we put the ramp the highest height, the car went furthest with a harder pull force with gravity too.
Excellent, Alex. So that pull force that's working when the car comes down is gravity.
I thought it was fun, and I learnt that if you didn't have gravity, we would just go flying off to space.
Thank you very much for letting me join. I enjoyed that a lot. They were all excited, and there was such a lovely sense of sort of fun. You know, it was a very, you were making science really enjoyable for them, as well as getting them to think. And I think we can sort of look for little sparkles of sort of more outstanding practice.
Yeah.
I think in that lesson, I really felt that certainly you've made a sort of several strides forward in the scientific content of the lesson. But why I feel that it wasn't quite there yet was because we have got some very bright, scientifically interested pupils in your class, and for them I think it was too easy. And I was also interested in why we rounded up.
It was really because so that some of the children, it would be a sort of exact measurement for them on the block graph.
And you see, some of your differentiation is great. You know, the way you'd prepared the sheets was slightly different.
Yeah.
I think now the real skill is to extend your differentiation. So we could have actually talked about, perhaps those of you who feel really confident to find the right number could just use that column. If you find it hard to plot the exact number, then go for the rounded up and see what happened. But at the end of the lesson, we have to celebrate that practically all of them had written a sentence that really showed understanding. And I think all your natural generic teaching skills, which you really have got a cartload, it's wonderful, with more and more science content and confidence, and then you are going to be delivering some really wonderful science lessons, and I feel you've certainly taken a real step towards that.
I didn't necessarily think that I was, in a few weeks, going to go from being a good teacher in science, you know, to being an outstanding teacher. But I've certainly learned things which could make, you know, to help me to get there. And some of those came through, and some of them, you know, are still there to be worked on.